In this video, we will show step by step, in practical terms, what was covered in integrations with external databases presentation. So we are going to set up a database connection in Service Center. We'll be importing tables as external entities in Integration Studio. We will adjust some of these entity and attribute properties. We will publish this extension from Integration Studio. And then in Service Studio, we'll create via scaffolding a list, display, and changing functionality of these external entities to prove that they become virtually indistinguishable from normal entities in practical terms. Alright, first things first, we need to go to the management console, that is Service Center, where we need to set up our database connection. To do so, we go to Administration, then Database Connections, where we will be presented with any existing database connections that might exist already. Let's actually set up a new database connection. So this is the process whereby you declare to the OutSystems platform some connectivity that already exists between the OutSystems platform server and an external database. So you need first to give it a name. In this case, let's call it Northwind. You might want to add a description if you like. You would select the type of database that you're connecting to, the type of DBMS. In our case, it's a SQL server. I'll first do this with basic configuration. Now, the server that we want to use, and I've copied to my clipboard so it makes for easier typing. The database that you want to connect by default over there, that will be Northwind, because there might be more than one database in the database server that you're connecting to. Now specify the credentials. Also the password. And you're able to test if indeed the settings that you provided were correct. And it was successful. Now the OutSystems server will be able to reach this database server. So let's just create, and now our database connection is registered and available to be used by Integration Studio. Well, let's jump to Integration Studio. See you guys on the flip side. So we're now in Integration Studio and I've already logged into my server, the same server where I did the setup in the previous step, and I'm just going to create a new extension. As mentioned in the presentation, I want to run the wizard to import tables to entities, and I do so by right-clicking the Entities folder here and selecting the Connect to External Table or View wizard. Now I'm going to go through this very simple wizard. The first step is actually going to show me what are the database connections that are known by the OutSystems platform. And you can see here the one that already existed plus the one we just set up in the previous step. Let's go with that one. The next step is it's asking, so Integration Studio is asking the server what databases exist over that connection. And we find here the Northwind database, which is where we want to fetch the tables from. So let's select this one and proceed. It has now introspected and is now listing every single table or view that that database contains. And it's now up to us to pick whatever tables we would like to make available in OutSystems. So I'm going to select here a subset of what's available. I'll select customers. I'll select employees. You can also double click. So I'm going to double click order details to select it. I'm going to double click orders and also products. And I'm going to proceed. You're now asked what is the logical database that this tables will be associated with, again, so you can later bind to an effective database connection in the server that you're going to publish, and we finalize the process. We should be getting here a simplified report of the entities that will be created. See, the little star means that they will be created. If I want, I can see the full report that highlights, for example, that the table had a column which was of the original type money that was made a decimal over here. or the original type was a small int that was made an integer in OutSystems, okay? So we have here also a foreign key. Let's close this and let's finalize. And here we have it, all the entities that were created. If we so desire, we can double check what are the properties of these entities that were created. I'll double click products, and here we have the information. So this table will have the name products as an entity. This is the physical table name that this entity has on the target database, the logical database that we provided. This indicates that this particular attribute is the identifier, the primary key of the entity and of the original table. We don't want to change here the conversion because the information there is coherent, but we might want now to adjust some of the properties on some of the attributes here. So for example, going through here, maybe unit price is a decimal, was suggested as a decimal. Maybe we can move this to be a currency, to be a little bit more specific in terms of OutSystems types, okay? Maybe if we look into customers, let me see. Yeah, we have a phone that was just pulled in as text. Well, maybe we might as well want to make this an OutSystems phone number, because this will facilitate namely scaffolding and interpretation values, validation of values as well once we're in Service Studio. There would be other places that we could fix. For example, in the case of orders, there's a few things here that originally were date time that probably really should be dates. So if we really want, we can flip them to dates to make things a little bit more coherent. And obviously we could add a description here if we want a little bit more context for our developers, orders in the system. Okay, so when we're happy with setting up the properties, then it's time to publish the extension. Let me just rename it to something a little bit nicer. And let's publish it to the server, thus making these entity definitions available in our server. So Integration Studio is now building, compiling, saving, uploading to your server, and in the process of publishing. You will see that the publication completed successfully, but we have here a warning saying that since it's the first time you're publishing this extension to the server, there needs to be a mapping of the logical database to an effective connection that exists in the server. So let's do that by pressing Configure. And here we go. This is the page for our extension, and we need to map Northwind to one of the existing connections. So we don't want this one, this was the Oracle one, we want the Northwind, and we apply. Notice that this error that's warning us that there was a problem will now say that there is effectively now a binding between the logical database and an effective database connection here, which makes this extension ready to be used in Service Studio. Okay, let's go over to Service Studio. See you guys on the other side. Alright, so we're now in Service Studio where I just connected to the server and I've created a simple application. I'm going to create the first module and go into, this is going to be a tester for our extension, and we'll need to first start off by referencing these entities that the extension has. So let's go into Manage Dependencies, and it's now connecting, asking for all the producers available in our server. Let's filter for the external DB. Here's our extension. Let's actually select all of the entities and press OK. Now, if you go into the Data tab, we'll be able to see that external DB is now a dependency with all our entities here. If we see the orders one actually has the change that we did in the property, and likewise the dates, these attributes, if you remember, that were date time, they have been set to date because we told them to do so. Okay, let's actually scaffold very quickly just the customers into here. So we'll be creating a, using the scaffolding, the accelerated way of the platform, we're going to be creating a list of customers. I actually want, it's a nice little list. I'm actually going to put the customer ID as well here as an attribute to the side because I like that. And I'm going to right click here and again use scaffolding to create the details screen that will drill into one specific line of this table and show us the details of a customer. Okay, so we have all of the information of the customer here, and it would be cool again using scaffolding to be able to list the orders that they've placed so far. So let me just drag and drop list the orders here underneath, and scaffolding will notice that I'm asking to produce a table of orders that can be bound to the current screen, which is customers, so it's all already going to filter for the orders of the current customer. Well, let's publish this to the server and wait a little bit. So right now what's happening is Service Studio has packed all of our code, is sending it to the server, uploading it to the server. It's now compiling and producing effectively the binaries. In the deployment process and in the compilation process, it's actually looking what producers am I using? Oh, I'm using this extension. All right, this extension has a logical database, if you remember, called Northwind. Okay, where is Northwind connected to? The logical Northwind. Okay, in this server is connected to a database connection that just so happens to be called Northwind as well. So it's making all these bindings and ensuring that these entities are ending up doing operations on the tables of our Northwind database. Okay, so for example, over here when we list the customers, okay, or when we list in the customer detail, we list the customer and the orders associated to it, the platform is actually fetching from the server, the database server where these tables are located. Okay, so let's have a look at our application. It's going to be very simple, but it will show you that you have here the information as you would were these entities created in OutSystems. Okay, so I'm just going to see the details of, say, this client of us, this customer of us. We have all of the information and the orders associated, namely what was our employee that dispatched these orders. You can absolutely change this. For example, if you want to change this to be Mrs., okay, and Rio, okay, and maybe this is in flat B, okay, I'm just going to save, and sure enough, this will have been changed in the external database. So all of the functionalities that you expect to be able to carry out within a native entity in OutSystems, you're able to do over these entities that they actually exist in an external database. And that was it. We showed step by step how to set up a database connection, how to import external tables as entities, how to adjust the properties of what you've imported, how to publish these entities via the extension that you created into the OutSystems server, and how, in practical terms, to use them from Service Studio. Hope you enjoyed this lesson. See you next time.